What's going on? My name is George Lee, aka the Conscious Lee. Don't forget the Lee. You can find me at georgeleespeaks.com. I consider myself an edutainer. Now we about to get into some education mixed with a little entertainment, mixed with a little engagement. We got international percussionist Malik Dope. We got actor Jahi Winston, as well as rapper Vic Mensa. Y'all going on and introduce yourselves in terms of what about art pulled y'all in.
Yes. Thank you again, man. Consciously. Yeah, just art, art has been just the driving force. It's been my voice, when I didn't have words to say, I could use my drums, to talk, to speak, just like, back in the day. But yeah, being from Washington, D.C., percussion, drums, street performance, that plays a big role in just arts and advocacy, just in general, because that's how we just represented ourselves through go-go music in DC. Just anything political, we getting out rallying, what I'm saying, using go-go and using that as our voice to speak for where the wrong is. So
hey, big shout out to DC, man. Big shout out to DC. Who we got up next?
I'm Jahi Winston. I got into art just because it was the best form of self-expression for me, and I was always very enamored by the great entertainers of our time, people who have inspired me. And I grew up in church, in the Black church, and it is, for those of you who have been there, it's a very performative landscape, the way that people present themselves. And so I've always been enamored by the concept of entertaining and expressing myself through the arts. And thankfully I had parents who supported me in that, and I've been able to parlay it into a career. So it's been pretty cool.
Where you from? Where you from, Jahi? Where you from?
I am from A-Town, Atlanta, Georgia. Dirty South. And born and raised in Atlanta, and a lot of great up and coming artists in Atlanta. So very proud to be from there, and very proud to represent today.
Yeah. And last but definitely not least, what it really did.
Peace. My name is Vic Mensa. I'm from Chicago, an artist from Chicago. As long as I can remember, I've been an artist, whether it was drawing, singing, painting, rapping, you name it. So it's really just my lifestyle. It's my way of life, my method of self-expression.
Okay, well, we can go and jump right into it then. Just being real, we all know that Black art has a unique position in America in terms of structuring really the rhythm, the blues, the cool, really a lot of pop culture, quote unquote, when it comes to, America. Just jump right into, I feel like, a very important conversation. What do y'all think about holding people accountable in terms of being able to use art to monetize other people's pain, suffering, trials and tribulations, especially y'all being artists, caring about y'all intellectual property and getting in where y'all fitting in?
I think it's a double-edged blade because Black art, music, film, novelists is so rooted in pain because the experience of the African in America is one of pain. And I think that's what partially, gives the unique power to Black music that it has. Black music is the most influential, culturally influential form of music on the planet, potentially entertainment in totality, you know what I'm saying? Because it's born of a very unique circumstance, you know what I'm saying? And, pressure makes diamonds. So being in this environment and having to exhibit this resilience through extreme struggle has created things like rap music, the blues, jazz, that have changed the landscape of the globe. So we profit from pain, you know what I mean? Because it's our pain that has given us this unique edge where people in Palestine and Gaza or in Beirut or, in Brazil or in Ghana and Nigeria, you know what I'm saying? Or in Russia even, you know, they all feel rap music because people struggle on the planet, but ain't nobody had it like the Black American. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we profit from pain, and I don't think that that's wrong at all. You know what I mean? That's tradition, and also that's just the truth. Us telling our story. I think that when it becomes parasitic is when the problems arise. You know what I mean? So that's why people that have so many have so many criticisms of the record labels. You know what I mean? Because you listen to the radio, you turn the radio on, and four of the artists you know that you hear the most are like recently dead 21-year-olds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's impossible to not think who's making all the money. You know what I mean? So I think what you said now, what we were speaking about earlier, is that there's a responsibility amongst us to hold each other and the avenues through which the music is distributed accountable. You know what I'm saying? So that it's not so that we can circumvent the exploitation. There will be exploitation. That it's impossible for there to not be that.
Yeah. I definitely would say we live in an age of hyper commodification, meaning that everybody gonna be sold one way or another. The question is, who is gonna be the main beneficiary of what's being sold? Malik, what you got to add into that in terms of people being held accountable for the pain and suffering? And then it's to add to what Vic was saying about other people being able to monetize other people's pain and suffering.
Right. And as we spoke earlier about it, I feel we definitely have to hold people accountable, but we also have to look at ourselves as the collective, as the tribe. Like, what are we doing that puts us in the trap of that, you know? Or are we celebrating this, you know, are we glorifying what's actually taken away from us? And also, do we own the platforms, you know, the equity of it all? Like, do we own our own media, our own network? Too many times we see people on that road, on that route, and we see some other things happen. I don't know too much. I don't want to be all conspiracy, this and that, but I'm just saying, you know, some signs there that point to like somebody doesn't want us to own what is rightfully ours, you know, all the way. So, you know, I'm just saying that we need to less support the things that are really just making money from us, because, you know, we just don't want to walk into the fire when we have a choice not to walk into the fire. So we need to like just keep on opening our eyes and really talking to our peers, really communicating, talking, being in the hood as we can, you know, talking to the youth, because I look at the youth in my area in DC and, you know, the talk of what these kids glorify, they want to be a stepper. That's like being like, that's the AKA gangster and all that. But, you know, they want to be a stepper, you know, and I got a little brother who's facing 30 years right now, 30 years in prison, you know, went in at 17. Now he's 21, just now accepted a, you know, situation where his only route was 30 years. And that was just from simply, he could have listened to my mom though. But it's like he was following, and then his other peers who, remember, you know, when we go out and, you know, like as a parent or whatever, you know, you can't watch your child all day. So when they go, whoever their friends are, whatever they're experiencing, you know, that's what they become of, more than what the parent might suggest, you know? So it's just about really arming the youth and the people around the community in our tribe with the righteous mindset for us to consciously see what we really need to be owning and supporting, and just, you know,
Yeah. Hey, Jahi, my fellow Southerner, man. I'm just curious. My grandfather always said the world loves Black people but hates Black culture. In this conversation about art, you feel me? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, personally speaking, from just the younger generation, Gen Z, I think a lot of the Gen Z language, the colloquialisms, if you will, sort of are taken from Black culture, but they just sort of get labeled or printed as just like, oh, this is just Gen Z language. And so trying to tell a white suburban teenager that, you know, all of the, you know, woo child and the, you know, the certain Southern things that came from Black Southerners or Black people in the Midwest are not Gen Z language, and they're not just sort of pop culture catchphrases that just came out of nowhere, and it's a frustrating fight. I mean, recently online we saw a lot of Black creators on TikTok taking ownership of their own work. And by striking and by saying that we're not going to create anything else until Black creators are the ones who are actually being spotlighted, and our work is not being commodified by existential forces. And so I think for me as an entertainer and as an artist, it's always my responsibility as a young Black man in this industry to make sure that Black people are still the ones who are being spotlighted and highlighted and honored when it comes to the depiction of our trauma and the depiction of our pain. Because I feel like what happens too often is that somehow in the stories and the narratives that are told about Black trauma, it's still Black people who are excluded from the narrative and don't get to have any benefits from their stories being told, whether that be benefits financially or just actually being honored and spotlighted. So it's always my goal and my plan to make sure that my people, Black people, always get to be honored in a way that is fitting to us as a people.
Yeah. And just so the people, you feel me, that didn't catch that, it's a friendly reminder. What y'all refer to as internet slang, a lot of times is African American vernacular English. And commodification is being able to literally extract Black culture away from Black people and say, that's not, you know what I'm saying, what we created. You feel me? But just to keep this conversation going, though, especially us talking about art and pain and suffering, I know that we got Atlanta, DC, Chicago, and we're talking about art. My question to y'all is, in terms of gentrification, what do y'all feel about when people move inside of Black communities and then police a lot of the practices that are normalized or police the culture that's normalized within the Black community when it comes to gentrification?
I think it's awful. I mentioned this in a prior conversation, but online and just in various spaces that I've been in, there's a big conversation as to like who should be held accountable. Should it be the gentrifiers themselves, the people who are actually moving into the communities, or should it be the state? Should it be the system that's allowing Black people, the people who have upheld the community for so long, to be pushed out? And I would say that the blame and the accountability should be both. Because it is the state's responsibility to honor the people who have upheld the community, but also if you are someone moving into a community that you're not a part of, and you start trying to reframe and restructure things that have been the heart and soul of the people that live there, and you feel like you can just come in and change things and police the music that's being played, and you would never move into a Latin community and be frustrated when you hear Ricky Martin or, like Anthony at like 2 a.m, because it
depends on the colonizer, man. I don't know. It depends on the colonizer.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, you have to be conscientious of of just the community that you're moving into, and being sensitive. And I think the entitlement is what is the most infuriating. The privilege and the innate sense of entitlement that just really drives me really crazy. And it's heartbreaking to see the people who are being pushed out of their own communities.
Yeah. What you got for us, Vic, man? I know in Chicago, there's a lot of unique, I feel like, advancements that's happening. We're making where a lot of Black folks and a lot of historical neighborhoods that I feel like a lot of the world knows about in terms of Chicago was folks being displaced. What can you say in terms of gentrification and how you feel like art relates to that?
Art relates to gentrification. I think first of all that the burden of responsibility falls upon the system that we all take part in, and it's this particularly potent brand of uber capitalism where a dollar takes precedent over everything: a human life, access to affordable housing, healthcare. I live in Chicago, where food deserts are aplenty, and people live in entire neighborhoods where you can't get a fresh fruit for miles. And that's the reality. You know what I'm saying? Um, I think that our art is also gentrified. You know what I mean? As we kind of comment upon what Jahi was talking about, that I got to tell people every day that slang you using is from Chicago. I, not every day, you know, I let it go, but
Everybody talking about smoking on whoever and all that stuff and all that.
so much of it, and a lot of it is real negative shit, to be honest. Excuse my language, but still, you know what I'm saying? So much of that just common parlance and vernacular that people think is just belongs to the internet. You know what I'm saying? Was created somewhere. It was created by Black people. You know what I mean? And then it's co-opted and regurgitated by, be it high fashion or, you know, big business. And whoever came up with it ain't, you know, ain't really benefiting. But as far as like how gentrification kind of impacts our art, I can't call it, but I do feel like our art is gentrified as well as our communities.
Definitely. Well, hey, I know Malik. You have a very, I think, interesting, unique take in terms of experience when it comes to gentrification in neighborhoods, man. Can you just let the people know about, like, I feel like you got to learn about the policy making process. You got to learn about equity. You got to learn about, you know what I'm saying, being seen as a disturbance and nuisance. Can you just let the people know what happened?
Yeah, you just turned me up, but it's because I can still feel it, you know. So, like I said, in Washington D.C. right now, currently, you know, we've been in a tug of war with that, far as the gentrification happening in Washington D.C. So I'm gonna speak just based off pure experience. I built my career and my fame off of street performing first, you know, and that's how I'll connect to the internet and go wherever else around the world. So I was street performing from DC and all that, you know. Around 2015, 16, this is when I experienced it. I'm on the corner, you know, I've been killing it for years already. Been killing it. It's already been a known thing that, you know, we have bucket drummers and DC go-go and all that has been present on the blocks of DC. Any corner, you can hear bucket drummers going crazy or just a band playing, right? So I start seeing these new type of apartments being built over top of this, like McDonald's or whatever that's on the corner. And I start noticing now the police are telling me I'm getting calls that I'm disturbing something. I'm like, what? I've been here for years. How am I disturbing it now? Who got a problem with it? And I can look up, I can see the people off the balcony, literally, you know, like on the phone. I can see them with the phone to their ear. And I was like, wow. Like, and at that time, I didn't even know what gentrification meant. You know, I didn't even know what it meant, but I felt with it. I felt it, you know, even, you know, so to that part, let's bring it forward where now, that was the beginning of it. And I was seeing it. And then they basically made me, I'm thankful for where it made me level up at. Cause then I started branding myself bigger where I didn't need to street perform no more. Let me go get my level up. So I didn't need to street perform no more, but now that hindered the opportunity for anybody else that might want to street perform and, you know, and continue that cycle like how I did it and find the fame, you know, from that. So more complaints as they're building more apartments, more, you know, places for people to live, you know, these expensive apartments that cost them $3,000 and $2,500 and crazy stuff that the average person isn't affording unless you, like, you know, got that job or that plug or that nepotism that connects you in there. So anyway, and you can see the demographic of what type of people are living there as well. I see the more people walking dogs, and you know what I'm saying? I see the people running in the hoods that, you know, I ain't never seen, you know people, I want to say melanin challenged people. I haven't seen them in these hoods in DC. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to be real respectful, but it's very disrespectful at the same time what's happening to us. So anyway, in 2018, they proposed the Amplified Noise Amendment Act of 2018. So now they were banning, and they've been doing this all over, not just DC. They've been doing it for any downtown or any area that has like street performers, and they targeting you performing with your amp, like your speaker or anything like that, as far as amplified sound and noise, because they saying like you can do it if you like just playing like a drum, no music. But of course, as far as lucrativity, I was getting more money when my music was turned up. You know what I'm saying? The more volume, the more the dollars would pull up, and we cranking, we going crazy. But they like, oh my God, it's just, I can't enjoy it. They're making too much noise. And it's like, we have people moving into an area, and we had to, now this goes into the accountability factor too, where we had to basically, all the artists and everybody, we started testifying. We pulled up to the building and testified in front of the Councilman Mendelson and the rest of them, and really told them like why this is wrong. And I could see the people who were the complainers, and once again, it was mostly old folk, melanin challenged, and they were just complaining about they can't enjoy their peace and quiet, but they live right in the downtown sector. So the two things was happening. You're not going to move in and tell us to do something when you're not even putting the respect on it and trying to give back to the community either. But also, we had to talk to the city about soundproofing and decibel monitoring, because it's like, okay, how are you telling me I'm too loud, but also there's an ambulance and a fire truck and people and basketball games and all that. So it's okay when you got your hockey game happening, right? And y'all tear up they tore up the whole city, and when the Nationals won the championship, the whole city would like, it looked like New York Times Square times 10. And but you want to talk about the street performers that clean up their mess as well. If we, it's a lot. But anyway, we testified and we got the bill postponed. But then now 2021, they just reintroduced the bill again. And at this point, as I've gathered more knowledge and more like just energy to where I need to put the fight towards and just not put the energy, my energy is more towards like where we need to be owning more buildings, owning more, that mom and pop energy, or that just whatever. We need opportunity of ownership and equity. Because then if I own my shop right there on the corner, downtown, wherever, man, go ahead, youngin, go crank. Yeah. Go ahead, youngin. I own the sidewalk right there too, because they would tell me that, So that was the thing. It was just the accountability of the city, because the thing is, they also use my image to market cheap things to do in DC when I was street performing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's how, well, we know. I think that we can go on and on and on and on about criminal,
like
and gentrification. I know, Malik. I know that the way that, to me, the hypocrisy of democracy says that when we gonna chastise a whole bunch of non-Americans and say that whenever you come into America, you must have respect for the culture, the practices, and the values before you come around here, or you ain't being a good citizen, you ain't assimilating good. But the same people that chastise undocumented would turn around and inner cities, quote unquote, and be like, hey, we're gonna criminalize y'all because the practices and the culture y'all had going on, we don't like that.
And criminalize in this bill, the part of the criminalization was you get a $300 fine for having your music cranked too loud and or jail time.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild.
10 days in jail over cranking, trying to do something right. Because I would use the street performing as the community service, as well as like make my money when I was doing my thing. But I will see some youngers out here that they just told me, man, I felt like I was about to rob somebody because I ain't ate. But thank you for letting me, I let them crank and let them like do, perform with me for a second, and then give them some dollars, and they went out into a positive route. So that was how that was my advocacy, and community service when I was out there. But it's still going on now, and my fight is more like, they ain't gonna stop building buildings. They ain't gonna stop building these buildings. So what are we gonna do? Are we gonna put our money together? Are we gonna, get some more community, situation, some unity going on? And
I think it's like it behooves us also to have a global perspective, and recognize that America is a settler colonial state. Look at what's happening in Palestine, where Jewish settlers coming to remove people from their homes and telling them, if I don't steal it, somebody will, is just a modern, representation of settler colonialism and be in solidarity with those people going through the same things as us globally, so that the conversation doesn't seem so limited to the blocks of DC or the blocks of
Right.
Chicago, and we can have a
Yeah.
holistic approach, you know what I mean, and look at this as the history of this nation. That's how this nation came to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, in
Yeah.
terms of solidarity, I feel like it's four black men on this panel right now. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're all artists in our own rights. You know what I'm saying? In terms of solidarity and being inclusive, like what are y'all thoughts on us being able to be more intersectional and being able to account for, you feel me, like accessibility of black women, including black trans women in terms of art, you know what I'm saying? Being able to account for disabled black people in terms of their accessibility to art and being able to monetize their artistic abilities. Like, what are y'all thoughts in terms of intersectionality, being black men and us being able to do our role in being able to do something?
I think it's very important that as Black men, we do honor the other members of our community, and more just like as a callback to the conversation of things being commodified. A lot of things that are put on T-shirts in Target as just like, oh, here's the new slang, came from Black trans women, came from the underground culture of ballroom in New York City, in the Midwest, in Atlanta. An entire culture, an entire movement was built off of their backs. And again, they saw almost no kind of recognition from financially or even in our culture. And so still being and just thinking about it now, it's sort of infuriating, but being able to, again, other communities within our community is very, very, very important to hold each other accountable, and to be conscientious of our terminology when we refer to people in the disabled community, Black disabled people, and fighting against ableism within our own community is an important conversation that needs to be had as well. And every day, and every week of every month, still honoring Black women. I mean, that doesn't change at all. And doing my own work to check my own internalized anti-Blackness is a huge step forward.
Yeah,
I think we all need to continue to put into practice.
that's what's really real. That's what's really real. Malik, Vic, what y'all got to say, man? What y'all
Yeah.
thoughts?
Oh yeah. Well, basically, for me, it's because I like to talk with just self first to basically really just strengthening up the empathy, basically understanding the other side of whatever, Black woman, or the trans, or just all the flavors of the people, period. Just understanding where they're coming from, and also finding a parallel part. Like that's why I like music and arts and stuff, because we're able to bridge those racism or classism lines when we both like a common thing. And it's like we both like these frequencies, these music, listen to radio, playing instruments, coloring, drawing, whatever. So, these things, using these like arts and advocacy, like and arts and empathy, basically using these things to basically find a common point where we all can like agree to disagree in the same time. But it's all about respect, and that respect is still coming from basically understanding another person's struggle, their story, just a day in the life of that other person. So for me, for Black women, I'm respecting women even more as I have a daughter on the way. So seeing my queen go, create and see that this is above me because I can't do that. It's a higher level of respect there, because I'm just like, wow, you're risking your life for this. You're risking your body, and there's already a big body sham and insecurity triggering society out here where the females, they feel like if they ain't got the BBLs or the this and that, and the butt out here and the breast, what I'm saying? It's an over sexualization happening. It's like it's a lot of different factors that can cause a lot of triggers. And then for me, I'm just understanding what's being promoted to the women. and what's being promoted to the men, and what's being promoted that will segregate us, you know, as far as in our, you know, Black households or just any household period. Is like, okay, I see what's going on here. I can't get manipulated by this false stereotype that's being interjected, because we carry it and internalize it and perpetuate it, you know? Yeah. So yeah, it's really just the respect is the theme of it, but respect comes from like empathizing in a certain way, you know, and knowing how to speak that common code where we can, you know, channel that art of communication and then create more love.
Definitely.
I know the process of growth for me is coming to understand my own patriarchy and that of our community, our society as a whole. No man or woman, honestly, is exempt from the impact of patriarchy. You know what I'm saying? And I think as men, it's very valuable for us to regulate ourselves, you know what I mean, and to hold each other accountable once again, because we know that we act differently, we speak differently outside of the presence of women, you know what I mean, just men talking to each other. And I don't think that true transformation is possible without us trying to educate ourselves and each other, speaking of men particularly right now, you know. So yeah, some of the just steps that I've been taking with my guys is like, for a while we were having like a meeting every week, you know what I'm saying, just to discuss, you know, our masculinity, our toxic masculinity, you know what I mean, our patriarchy, our participation and complicity in rape culture and in the culture of sexual assault, and how many of the things that examining how many of the things that we learned as kids from the men who raised us, you know, not just our fathers, but also our big homies, our big brothers,
the artists we look up to, you know what I mean, the movies that we watched, how all these things taught us a mode of masculinity that is completely patriarchal and based on domination, often enforced by fear and violence. You know what I'm saying? And Black women, Black trans women, Black disabled people have always been on the short end of that stick. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they've also been indoctrinated with the same patriarchy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I feel like it's a process, but you know, for me, I try to learn that as a straight Black man, you know what I'm saying? Charismatic, you know, smiles and speaks well. It's my duty to illuminate those who often work tirelessly in the shadows, you know what I mean? And don't none move without Black women, you know what I'm saying? But oftentimes we get all the shine for it, you know? So I've had a lot of situations where I just had to, you know, deal with my own ego, check it, and understand that, you know, that's why she's upset, is because, you know, she's been doing this. And although you wasn't meaning to be malicious, when you come in and you do it, you get all the praise, you know? And so I just try to learn to, you know, champion, you know, the Black women, the Black trans women that are often Black queer women, and that are often at the front of, you know, of these movements in terms of who's really making the wheels roll. All right, most definitely, man. Well, I want to appreciate y'all most definitely for just being able to, for like, contribute to this conversation. Hopefully for the people that's watching this conversation, you was able to take and learn something from it, man. Research over me search. I know it's very easy when we start having conversations about power and conversations about oppression. It's easy to point outside and say it's out there. You feel me? It's usually harder to look inside of yourself to try to figure out how in the hell is you getting in the way of the progress you claim you want so much. You know what I'm saying? I think that when we talk about accountability, when we talk about masculinity, when we talk about patriarchy, this is what we're getting into. You know what I'm saying? Research over me search, facts over feelings. You know what I'm saying? Instead of being in your feelings about some ignorance, you can elevate yourself and go on and go to Google or something like that, because it's your friend to be able to, you know, raise your consciousness, raise your awareness, man. This is about arts and humanities. We know that in American history, Black art, Black people, in terms of being producers of culture, we know that we ain't really valued in terms of us being producers. We know the products that our community, you know what I'm saying, is able to sometimes produce is usually seen with a whole bunch of value. This conversation is trying to bring all those things together and make it where we can have a little more understanding for us to navigate it, man. Education is elevation. My name is George Lee, aka Consciously. I appreciate y'all for having us.